Welcome to Timeless Wisdom with Dennis Prager. Hear thousands of hours of Dennis's lectures, courses, and classic radio programs. And to purchase Dennis Prager's Rational Bibles, go to DennisPrager.com.
This radio show is heard by over 2 million listeners on 150 stations across the country. He is a highly sought-after speaker. He's written so many best-selling books. Think a Second Time, Happiness is a Serious Problem, and Still the Best Hope, Why American Values Must Triumph. And his latest one that he's going to be coming out with the very near future, which I'm very excited about as well. I can go on and on with his credentials. Prager University, which is huge. Let's give a big hand to Dennis Prager.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. I can't tell you how intimidating it is to get a standing ovation before I speak. No, I'm being totally candid with you. I would prefer almost no reaction, then I could pleasantly surprise you. Now I can only disappoint you. So that's but I'm very touched by what Brad had to say and everything you're doing. And my dear friend, Pastor Jack Hibbs is here. And a lot of distinguished, all of you were distinguished, and this is not one of those self-esteem lines, you're all special. But I know, look, the very fact that you know what to support. I spend most of my fundraising time for Prager University. But I was so thrilled that as a result of what I said to folks that I spoke to earlier, prior to your silent auction, about for the first time in my life of speaking 40 years, I asked for security going to Colorado State University this coming Tuesday. It's coming Monday. That's how bad it's gotten. And anyway, I already see some positive coming out of it, and that you'll have a new office in Fort Collins. So I was very pleased about that. By the way, it was mentioned earlier about parents who have their kids taken away, because sometimes, of course, appropriately, but very often not. And I report this on my radio show, parents who let their kids walk alone, they get visited by Child Protective Services. It's beyond belief. My parents would have lost me so early. When I was 7, they let me fly to my aunt in Miami from New York and fly back. And really, what would surely have gotten them arrested was they came late to the airport to pick me up. Their 7-year-old son comes back from Miami, and they showed up late. And I'm so happy because the story is part of the Prager family lore right now. What did they find me doing? Tipping the porter at 7. That is my favorite childhood story. I just had to share that with you. And now from light to dark, if I may for a moment, 11 Jews were murdered today in Pittsburgh at synagogue. I go to synagogue virtually every Shabbat, every Saturday. So obviously it hits home in a special way. So I feel injured as a Jew, but truly equally as an American, because it's a stain that this country doesn't deserve. I tell people all the time, I was raised to believe that I was the luckiest Jew in Jewish history for being an American Jew. I still, of course, feel that. Today did not change that in any way. I've written a book on anti-Semitism. I taught Jewish history at Brooklyn College, and I've fought anti-Semitism my whole life. Israel sent me into the Soviet Union because of my knowledge of Russian and Hebrew. So I have a pretty good record on this subject. America is a blessing to Jews as it is to blacks, to Hispanics, to women, and to everybody else who has complaints about this country. If you complain about the United States, there is something wrong with you, not the United States. It is as simple as that. The inability to appreciate what is beautiful is one of the ugliest traits in the human pantheon of ugly traits. It's called ingratitude, and it is cultivated in the United States today. It's an art form. Ingratitude has become an art form. But I want to say one more thing about the shooting, the mass killing of the Jews in Pittsburgh. This, I say, not as a Jew, not as an American, just as an observer of history. Jew hatred / anti-Semitism destroys societies. A society cannot survive anti-Semitism. Even if you don't give a damn about Jews, you have every reason in the world to fight anti-Semites. It is a form of societal suicide. Germany committed suicide. The number of Germans slaughtered, raped, tortured, and the country divided for 40 years. And I really don't know if Germany will survive. It seems to be involved in a suicidal pact to not give birth and to bring in people who don't share Western values. Germany may really not survive. The great answer that evangelicals who support Israel give, when asked and I tell this to Jews all the time, I said, if you wake up an evangelical at 3:30 in the morning and say, why do you support Israel and the Jews? They'll tell you, because God said to Abraham, I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. And I wrote a piece. You should read it, as I wrote it, not as a believer, just as an observer of history, how this is actually accurate. God does bless those societies that bless the Jews and curse those societies that don't. There is no exception to that rule. The United States has blessed Jews more than any other society of any serious Jewish population, and it has been the most blessed society in history. Right now, the most benighted part of the world is the Arab world, and it is totally related to the fact that it curses the Jews. And I would tell, if I was speaking to an all-Arab audience, you want to turn the Arab world around, stop hating Israel. Simple as that. You're preoccupied with hatred. If you weren't, you could actually, there's tremendous resources in the Arab world, but they're completely stymied by their preoccupation with the destruction of a Jewish state the size of New Jersey. The Arab world stretches from the Atlantic Ocean to the Persian Gulf, but it can't tolerate a Jewish state the size of El Salvador. It's quite remarkable. Anyway, what really the message has to be in the United States, anyone who knows of such a human being who harbors such hatred of Jews, you're destroying our country, man, and we're not going to let you do that. It has literally secondarily to do with Jews. It's a death wish. It's a death spiral anti-Semitism. So this is the message that I would want to convey, and obviously will. So I would like to speak to you tonight. You're the easiest audience I could talk to, and you are. I admit it, and I want to tell you why. You're not only conservative, you're also God-centered. You're Bible-centered. I speak to a lot of conservative audiences, and they're secular, and I bless them. They're our allies. We need them terribly. I write a column every week. National Review is one of the places it appears. And I wrote a few months ago, sort of an open letter to secular conservatives, many of whom are terrific, who make Prager University videos. I have on my show. I read their books. But they don't understand that the American Trinity, and I use that word advisedly, the American Trinity, and you can see it's just released last week, and we release one every week. I do only 10% of the videos at PragerU, but I did this one. The American Trinity. You want to explain what America is in a nutshell? You just take out a coin and show it to a young person or an old person. E pluribus unum, liberty, and God we trust. That's it. No other country in the world has those three. That's not the tripod upon which any other country rests. It is the United States. And it will not survive without in God we trust. Not because God will punish us, but because we will have committed suicide. God doesn't have to do a thing for America to self-destruct. All we have to do is forget that rights come from God. It's very basic. If they come from man, they are worthless, meaningless, pointless. That isn't a matter of faith. It takes no faith to understand that. An atheist can understand if rights come from men take them away. End of issue. But if they come from a transcendent source, no one can take them away. That is so obvious, you have to go to graduate school not to understand it. That is what America is rooted in. And so the secular conservatives, with their brilliance and their works and everything, I'm telling you, that's why it's easy to talk to you. You understand both the conservatism and you understand, I'll put it this way, you understand the greatness of both the Constitution and the Bible. America needs both to be sacrosanct. Both are. So I would like to share with you what I have come to understand about the left. And I always make this point, so let me make it at the outset. I draw a distinction between liberals and leftists. Liberals are usually weak, they're usually wrong, but they're nice. Leftists are a poison in all societies. The left has been the most destructive force outside of Nazism in the last 100 years. It has also been the most powerful religion in the world. It is a secular religion. It has influenced Judaism and Christianity far more than Judaism and Christianity have influenced the world. This is sad news, but it is nevertheless news. I'll get to the religion part in a moment. But I want to explain to you something that just occurred to me recently, and it's amazing to me that I didn't realize this earlier, but hey, there are rewards in staying alive, many rewards. This is one of them, more insight. So you heard, actually the first volume of my 5-volume work on the first 5 books of the Bible came out this past year, the Rational Bible. It was Exodus. I'm finishing Genesis. It's got to be done in 5 more weeks. It's in a massive, massive undertaking. And I came to realize something. Part 1, I realized to a certain extent, but part 2 is, I now realize even more. Do you know what God does in Genesis 1? God, more than anything else, God makes order out of chaos. God spends his time separating between light and darkness, between day and night, between male and female, between life and death, between God and man. There are a whole host of separations made for the world to be good. The world cannot be good with chaos. Chapter 1, verse 2 is, and the world was tohu vavohu, which is not fully translatable, but essentially the world was in chaos. Then God sets forth making order. Then I put 2 and 2 together, and I realized that the greatest force for disorder is the left. If you want to understand the left in a metaphysical way, it is the force of disorder. The most obvious example is male-female. The denial that there is male and female. They now deny that there is male and female. First they deny that there were differences, but the next step is obvious, to deny that male and female even exist. New York Times just had a piece last week. Experts say that biology does not determine sex, and so on. It's now, by the way, I want to salute you. Brad, I want to salute you. That was a very sensitive interview with that woman who was a man. By the way, I have no issue. That person looks like a woman, acts like a woman, dresses like a woman. There are human beings with gender dysphoria. We should never deny reality. They exist. They are fellow human beings created in God's image. If she wants to be known as she, I will. What I object to is when you, for example, you say you're a she and you now compete with women in women's races or women's basketball. That is narcissism, not liberation. And that just happened last week in the world, some cycle contest where it was a male body won and says, I'm a woman, doesn't look like a woman, doesn't sound like a woman. The body towered over the second and third place winners, and women's groups go along with it. It's unbelievable. It's literally unbelievable. Anyway, the left is a force of disorder. And I realized writing the toughest chapter in all of the Bible, chapter 1, I realized in writing this, the second verse is, and the earth was null and void, or it was filled with disorder and chaos. God spends the next 6 periods, days, whatever you want to call them, making order. And then I realized the natural state is disorder. The left appeals to the natural state. Why is the left appealing? Everything it touches, and I will go down a list, it ruins. Everything. It's a totally destructive tornado. But why is it appealing? Because it appeals to human nature. People rather be taken care of than be free. Freedom is a value, not an instinct. The human instinct is to be taken care of. People will trade liberty for being taken care of in a nanosecond. They do all over the world. College kids want to do that. The hell with liberty. Take care of me. Provide me with free tuition. Provide me with free insurance. Provide me with free health care. Provide me. Take care of me. The American radical experiment on Bible-based, Western Enlightenment-based values was take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of your community, and only then, if necessary, the state will. One of the most famous statements in the Talmud, the second most holy work in Judaism following the Bible, is in En Ani Li Nili. If I am not for myself, who will be for me? You must first take care of yourself. That is a moral obligation. It is not a selfish act. It is a moral obligation to take care of yourself. That is what the founders understood. I take care of me, I take care of my family, I take care of my community, and that's what Americans did. I was in Australia lecturing to the Jewish community earlier this year, and I saw a bus, and it had something to do with, where the statement was, there should never be profit in healthcare. And I thought, what are you, out of your mind? What graduate school did you go to come up with something that stupid? You don't want people to profit from making people healthy? What would you like people to profit from? Soccer? No, do you understand how stupid that is? There shouldn't be profit in healthcare? I want doctors to make a fortune saving people's lives. And I'm not a doctor, and I'm not a fan of doctors. Some of doctors are great, some aren't great, but it doesn't matter. I want the doctor's parking lot to have nice cars in it. That's a good thing. What is wrong with you? Think about it for a moment. People who save lives should not profit by doing so. Really? What would you like people to profit doing? Do you understand the unclarity of it all? It's not only destructive leftism, it's just downright stupid. I wish it weren't. I wish that there was an intellectual base, but if there were an intellectual basis to leftism, they wouldn't be leftist. It's all passion. It's all emotion. And do you know why you are not on the left? If you are a Bible-based person, because the Bible taught you as it taught me, don't trust the human heart. That's why. That alone separates religious from secular people. We know the heart is not trustworthy. You have to be guided by values, ideally transcendent values, because the heart leads you to terrible places. The heart makes you different from an automaton, makes you different from artificial intelligence. God bless the heart, but it can't be the guide to behavior. This is one of the, I would write over and over and over, article after article on the difference between a Bible-based Weltanschauung worldview and a secular one. This is one, I'll give you another classic example. I went to Jewish school till I was 18, and I mean Jewish school, I mean yeshiva. Half the day in Hebrew, Jewish subjects, and half the day in English, secular subjects. Pretty good background for a religious life. And here is a huge difference between a Christian school, Jewish school on the one hand, and a secular school on the other. I learned that the biggest problem in Dennis Prager's life is Dennis Prager. In secular school, you learn the biggest problem is America. It's sexism, it's racism, it's xenophobia, it's patriarchy. That's the biggest difference. So basically, you learn to be a narcissist in secular schools, whereas in religious schools, you can't be a narcissist because you know what a big problem you are. That alone is reason to send your kids, not to send your kids to a secular school, public or private. The private are no better than the public. I mean, obviously there are exceptions. There are some wonderful public, some great private, some awful religious school. Nevertheless, as a rule, that is the rule. The left poisons everything it touches. So let me go down quickly the list. So I was given a time limit. So here we go. Oh, thank you. Okay. In no order of importance. They have ruined the universities. Steven Pinker, a professor of psychology at Harvard, atheist, but he's a liberal, not a leftist, said the left has made the universities a laughing stock. That is entirely accurate. They are now a laughing stock. The university is to such an extent that I warn parents. I absolutely do. Sending your child to an American university, obviously some exceptions, is playing Russian roulette with their values. Okay? The number of people with wonderful values whose kids have been poisoned at the university is painful. I meet these parents and their heart is broken. It is as if their child became a pagan. But it's not as if. They did. That is essentially what is taught at our universities. They are moral and intellectual wastelands. There are a few good professors. We are happy to feature them at Prager University. But as a general rule, it is a crisis, and all because of what the left has done. The left has done this likewise to high schools. It doesn't start there. Every poll, Pew and Gallup, has shown that now the majority of American millennials do not believe in free speech for hate speech, which of course is preposterous. What do they believe in free speech for? Love speech? It's a meaningless statement. I believe in free speech, but not for hate speech. That's the argument for not having me at Colorado State on Monday. Oh, we believe in hate speech. We believe in free speech, but Dennis Prager is hate speech, which is really remarkable. They can't, by the way, they can never find anything. So what they do is they charge me with things that I never said. They're not even in quotes. There are no sources. They just make up stuff. I'll give you one example. This happens so often. Huffington Post just wrote this about me 2 weeks ago, and other places have as well. About 10, 15 years ago, I write a column every week. But every so often, I don't only care about politics, I write about life. So I wrote a 2-part column It's titled something to the effect, when a wife loves her husband, and something about that. Anyway, the gist of it is very simple. Here's the gist. This is more important than the title. I should memorize the title of my own work. I agree. It's a lacuna in my understanding of things. But it's 15 years ago. Give me a break. But anyway, what I do remember well is what I wrote. And this is what I wrote, because I do a male-female hour every Wednesday, an hour. I've talked to thousands of people on the radio, and God knows how many through email and so on. So here it is. It's very basic. And that is, if you love your husband and you want a better marriage, and he's a good man, don't let mood be the only determinant whether or not you will have sex with him. That's all. That's it. That was my advice. Okay? So obviously, he honors your request. He honors your refusal, etc. But my advice is, if it's just that you're not in the mood, give it a try. Okay? So that's it. That's my advice. By the way, whenever I say this, only men applaud. It is amazing to me. I'm watching. I have yet to see the woman who has applauded that idea. Nevertheless, okay, be that as it may. By the way, I'm known for this because I talk about it as well on the male-female hour on Wednesdays, so it is very adorable how many couples come over to me, even at airports, let alone at speeches, and will say, just want you to know, we love your male-female hour. And the guy has a big glint in his eye. And I say, you know, sir, you owe me. And he shakes my hand and he agrees with me and so on. Anyway, so that's what I wrote. Okay, that's what I wrote. Now, this is what has been, you look this up. You look up Dennis Prager marital rape. And you will get unbelievable numbers of hits. The left has accused me repeatedly, including the Colorado State newspaper. We're going to bring a guy who advocates marital rape? Is that astonishing? Think about that. They lie with the ease with which you breathe. Lying is as essential to leftism as oxygen is to biological life. It is its essence. That's why Pravda was the Soviet newspaper. It means truth, but it was filled with lies. They don't even know the difference between a lie and a truth. They accuse the president of lying. The president is Abraham Lincoln compared to the left. And I know he exaggerates and distorts and all those things, but he's one man. The left is everything. It is a movement. The New York Times wrote on a piece on me because of my the so-called controversy of my conducting. I conduct orchestras as an avocation. I'm very lucky to be able to do that. I conducted at Disney Concert Hall last year, the Santa Monica Symphony Orchestra. So it was a dramatic thing for some conservative talk show host who's also a musician, conducts left-wing or liberal cities orchestra. So out of the 70 players in the orchestra, 7 would not play for me because I'm conservative. So the New York Times had a feature article on the controversy on the West Coast. All of a sudden, the New York Times is interested in the Santa Monica Symphony Orchestra. I mean, they didn't know it existed. But I have a national name, so they figured they could smear me, which is exactly what they did. People had asked me before that. They said, you ever been covered by the Times? And my answer was always, thank God, no. Thank God, no. And I was proven right. It was a smear piece. They wrote, among other things, part of the reason for, by the way, even the whole thing was a lie. They focused on the fact that 7 of 70 wouldn't play for me. But that means that 63 of 70 would. Couldn't the honest article have been? Beautiful event on West Coast. Left-wing orchestra plays for right-wing conductor to show music transcends politics. Wouldn't that have been an honest piece? The whole article was a fraud. It was a fraud. The president is right about fake news. It's true across the board. And they wrote, among other reasons that Prager is controversial, is he said that a same-sex marriage will lead to incest. But I never said that. I never said that in my life. All I said was, when I analyzed the judge who overturned Proposition 8 in California, the judge said that we cannot deny any two people the right to marry. So I wrote an article. I said, but in that regard, then we could not deny a brother and a sister the right to marry. That doesn't mean same-sex marriage will lead to incest. All I did was give a logic argument on the flawed reasoning of the judge. So I wrote them a letter, and it was no use. And now, so what happened? NPR, PBS, the LA Times, all repeated, and this is their genius. This is how the left works. Prager says that same-sex marriage will lead to incest. Now it's in quotes. But the quotes are from the New York Times, not me. That's how they work. Isn't that phenomenal? So the Times lied. They based their lies on the New York Times piece. The New York Times never had quotes. It didn't even say I said it. They're smart. They said Prager suggested. What does that mean? Have you ever suggested in your life? No, you either say or you don't say. You've never suggested in your life. Did you ever use the verb? You know, I was with Jerry today and he suggested that, what? He suggested? What does that mean? I mean, he suggested that we eat Chinese food. That I get. But you don't suggest, you either say or you don't say. This is what is happening at the universities. By the way, Adam Carolla and I are making a movie that's coming out next year, No Safe Spaces. And it is about what is happening on the universities. And Adam Carolla, he is just something very special. He claims to be an atheist, though I think I'm having a slight effect on him. I think. I'll tell you this, though, but it's okay. He has more moral clarity than half the religious people I know. So, I'll take him and his atheism over a lot of people who claim to believe in God and who don't know left from right and right from wrong. But he really understands this. And he understands, by the way, that America will collapse without religion. He's an atheist who appreciates the need. And that's more important than anything else, to appreciate the need for God, even whether or not you personally believe in God. Anyway, so I just wanted you to know about the film. Next, the arts. The left has ruined the arts. I'm involved in music, specifically, obviously. So what I won't talk to you about music. I'll talk to you about the graphic arts. You don't know, but you would know if you read my column or my book on the left and America. It's really my titles of my own works are Still the Best Hope, about American values, Islamic values, and leftist values. How much modern art, contemporary art, is based on human feces, urine, menstrual matter, etc. You have no idea. You probably know about Piss Christ, where the artist, quote-unquote artist, puts a crucifix in a jar of his urine to make some really powerful statement. By the way, places that showed it were given grants from the National Endowment for the Humanities. I mean, the country had supported this. By the way, to show you one of the things about the left is they're gutless. Would he ever put Muhammad in a jar of urine? It's a rhetorical question. It needs no response. Okay? He knows he could put Christ in a jar of urine because you Christians won't touch him. You'll probably fight for his right to do it. And he doesn't recognize that. And if anybody says, well, maybe that shows there's maybe possibly, potentially, theoretically, a difference between the values of the Muslim world and the Judeo-Christian world, you're an Islamophobe. No, maybe it's true. I mean, is that possible? Maybe there really are different values. You die if you do piss Muhammad, and you live if you do piss Christ. Is that not a statement of something that differentiates those worlds? But that's what they love. I reported. You truly have no idea. This is the Orange, finally in Orange County to say this. The Orange County Museum of Art has a 28-foot sculpture of a dog in the front peeing on the museum properly. But that's a separate issue. It was a very revealing thing for them to do, peeing on their own museum. But that's what it's doing. This is considered art. Do you understand? They're the forces of chaos. That's what it is. That's the only way to understand the left. It is the forces of disorder. They loathe the West because the West embodies order, an idea of civility. Number 3, sports. Can't go to a football game any longer without watching people denigrate the American flag. I mean, it's mind-boggling. It's just mind-boggling. Colin Kaepernick is now a Nike spokesperson at millions of dollars a year. The guy wore socks at an NFL game depicting police as pigs. You could see the picture on the internet. And he's Nike's sports spokesperson. So that's what they have done. You know what it is? This is the irony. There really aren't any more safe spaces for Americans. We used to be able to do a lot of things without politics intervening. We could rest. I could root next to a liberal for my home team, but not anymore. It's just like, and that brings me to entertainment. Late night television has been poisoned. It's like watching a leftist kumbaya. That's all it is. It's astonishing. Remember Johnny Carson? Some of you might remember, the icon of American late night TV. Do you know, I admit it, I did not know Johnny Carson's politics ever. He never hinted at it. If he was conservative, I wouldn't have been surprised. If he was liberal, I wouldn't have been surprised. He believed his job was to make Americans go to bed at night with a little laugh. Some laughter, some smiles. Good night from the Tonight Show. That's what he believed. There's no more. The left doesn't believe in that. Make Americans smile. That's a right-wing value. Make Americans angry. That's a left-wing value. So everything has been touched. Religion. Everyone asks me, everyone, that's slightly exaggerated. There are times I'm not asked this question. Just yesterday, coming from Minneapolis, the flight attendant did not ask me this question. So I really can't say everyone. I will say this, very often I am asked by non-Jews, why are so many Jews on the left? Totally legit question, given, among other things, that the left hates Israel. So you would think the Jews wouldn't want to commit suicide. You would think, but they went to college. Too many Jews went to college. That is a serious problem. Anyway, so but you see what the questioner, usually a Christian, is not realizing is the same poison in Judaism poisoned Christianity. Look at Catholicism and look at mainstream Protestantism. What happened to the Presbyterian Church USA, to the Episcopal Church, to the Methodist Church? What are you kidding? What has happened to the Pope? The Pope's a leftist. The Pope's values are not Catholic. His theology may be Catholic, but his values are leftist. I could give you example after example, but that I truly don't have the time to do. And I've written about it. Just Google me and Pope Francis, and you will see what I wrote about it. And I document my point. It's poison. A religion, remember, that's the thing you have to know. It is a chaotic force and it poisons whatever it touches. Liberty, it doesn't have value for liberty. Free speech, religious liberty, campuses. I told you about young people who now don't believe in free speech. They believe only free speech if it's not hate speech, but that is a meaningless statement. Male, female, this is the one that really, this disturbs me. You heard that woman on one of the videos about her, what was it, her daughter in class? Am I going to be a boy? Oh, this is what they do to them. Do you know that from North Carolina going west in the country, vast numbers of teachers have been told, do not refer to your students, and we're talking first graders, as boys and girls. That's right. Look it up. I document everything I say. Truth is sacrosanct. Do not call them boys and girls. Just call them students. You do not want to impose a gender identity on first graders. This is a form of child abuse, and I use the term literally. The family, 40%, just came out last week, 40% of American children are born, babies are born to mothers who are not married. 40%. In 1960, it was 10%. 40%, and of course rising. That's chaos, folks. That's the forces of disorder. Remember the TV character and the then vice president who said, Murphy Brown, remember? She gave birth to a child, and she wasn't married, and the vice president said, maybe this is not a good thing. The man was lampooned as a bigot. Who are you to judge? Like the left doesn't judge. But they don't like our judgments. That's correct. Race? It is astonishing. Do you know, I walk around, I travel the country. Last week I was in 5 different cities. This week I'll be in 3 different cities. And I watch something very carefully, interactions between blacks and whites. I watch it like a hawk, and I think I'm a fairly good observer of people and conduct. The naturalness of black-white relations in America is virtually unique in the history of multiracial countries. I state categorically, this is the least racist multiracial country in human history. It is an astonishing achievement. I wrote a piece just 2-3 weeks ago. I wrote a piece how I first realized America was exceptional. This was the story I told. In 1976, I moved to California, and I moved to Simi Valley, California, which was then nothing. There were 2 restaurants in the entire city, a pizza place and a deli, and that was it. So it was nothing. And what I did was I was brought up to be the director at a very young age, 25, to be the director of a the largest Jewish retreat center in the country, which is located on 3,200 acres in Simi Valley. So the thing I did, living in Simi Valley for 3 years, the first thing I did was join the Rotary Club. I was the only Jew in the Simi Valley Rotary Club. And what I wrote about was the beauty of the reaction to me. The reaction to my being the only Jew in the Simi Valley Rotary Club in 1976 was, so what? Now, I know Jewish history very well. I've written books on it. I've taught it on the college level. Nowhere in the world, you don't know this. Most Jews don't know this. Nowhere in the world was that ever true. And not in Europe. In France, if you were the only Jew in the Rotary Club, I'm not saying they would be anti-Semitic, but they would all know you as le Juif, the Jew. That's how you would be known. I would be Denis le Juif. I would be Dennis the Jew. Wouldn't be necessarily bad. It's just I'm different. It's if you are different. In America, if you're a Jew or you're a Turk or you're Hispanic, it doesn't matter. That's the point. There is no other society on earth of which that is true. Our answer, the conservative, the American answer to you're black is, so what? That's the best answer in the world. You're white, so what? That doesn't matter. Does God give a damn what your color is? Why should I? I'm sorry. Don't say damn in a Christian context. I forgot. Does God give a darn? Okay, there we go. I usually have notes to myself. Remember, it's a Christian audience. I am the only non-Christian, especially Jew, who can rib Christians endlessly. Because I know you so well and I live amongst you. Let me give you one example and then I'm almost done. But this is my favorite. The lousy way you raise money. Believe me, Jews know how to raise money. Okay? Let me make that clear at the outset. We have a lot to learn from you, and you have a lot to learn from us. I became aware of this, 25, 30 years ago, when the first speech I gave at a church. And they had a collection for the church. The pastor gets up, they pass around the box, the hat, whatever it was, and the pastor says, "Want you now? We need money here at the church. We need some funds, obviously, to continue our important work. So I want you to pray on it. And whatever the Holy Spirit moves you to do, that's what you should do." And my first reaction was, is he kidding? Is this how they really do it? What if the Holy Spirit moves you to give $5? How's that going to help the church? Jews don't depend on the Holy Spirit to give. I got to tell you, I'm just telling you right now. This is how Jews do it. I saw this with mine eyes and mine ears. I was the scholar in residence at a weekend retreat in Utah for the biggest donors, Jewish donors in the country for the United Jewish Appeal. They had to have given $100,000 a year to qualify for the weekend. This is what I saw because I was allowed to stay in the room after my speech. And guy gets up, the leading fundraiser, and he goes, okay, here, let's see, Bernstein, please stand. Bernstein, we have your tax return for last year. You had a really good year, Mike. Okay, so my question to my Christian friends is, which is more effective? Mike's tax return or the Holy Spirit? Just asking. I got a speech, you really should get it. It's in many ways my favorite speech, what Jews and Christians can learn from each other. And it's because I'm really in a rare position. I know both communities so well, and I'm sort of a member of both. And it's really it's a wonderful blessing in my life. But I've learned a lot, let's put it that way. Like, why do Jews complain more than Christians? I have theories on that too, but that's in the speech. Okay. Back to the serious. I'm practically done. About what everything that the left has touched, they have ruined. The Boy Scouts. It's a perfect example. So here's a perfect example. The left only destroys. They build nothing except power. That's all they build. Power centers for themselves, from Brussels to Washington. That's what they do. But they never replace. Is there a left-wing Boy Scouts? Of course not. They don't have anything to mold boys into men. The very notion of molding boys into men is sexist to them, is almost misogynistic. We don't want to make boys into men. We want to make them into feminized men who are no different from females. That's the left agenda. And let's, in the meantime, masculinize women. And then nobody's different. And that's the disordered dream of the left. The Boy Scouts now is no longer the Boy Scouts. They're not even called the Boy Scouts because they've had to accept girls. Just what boys need, right? No place to affirm their masculine identity. And then the assault on truth and justice. Believe women? You have to be kidding. Believe women? I thought the purpose is believe evidence. Believe what is true. It's as stupid as believe men. What if somebody had a sign, believe men? We would consider the person a fool. You don't believe men and you don't believe women. You believe evidence. End of issue, because we search for truth. There's no search for truth on the left. Truth is annoying. This is a classic example. You know how many young people now think that? Believe women? Do you know, I was taught, that's a while ago, I was taught in graduate school that a black cannot be a racist. Like a woman can't lie. A black cannot be no, you don't understand. People think, if you don't know what I'm saying to be true, you may think I'm overstating, so you have to look it up. Look up, can a black be a racist? Simply Google it. And the answer is no. A black cannot, even Farrakhan cannot be a racist. A black only, because only those in the powerful race can be racist. So if a black shoots whites because he hates whites, he's not a racist. He's just a victim acting out his anger. So too, women can't lie. In other words, truth doesn't exist. Race, gender, and class exist, but not truth and falsehood. And finally, happiness. They have made people unhappy. There are many reasons why the left, by the way, there was just the latest study that came out was about how women have been progressively unhappier and unhappier each generation since the 1970s, exactly when feminism unleashed its poison. And I do an hour each week. It's the most popular hour of my show, the Happiness Hour. I've written a book on happiness. And I claim every time the happy make the world better, the unhappy make it worse. We're morally obligated to act happy even if we don't feel it. Happiness is a moral virtue, not an emotional state. I say that every single week. America is a better country because in its Declaration of Independence, it says life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They knew what they were talking about. No other country has those three in its Declaration of Independence. The left hates happiness. And I'll tell you why. Happy women, happy blacks, happy Hispanics vote Republican. That is why. They have a vested interest in miserable Americans. If a black says, I'm very happy, I'm really glad to be an American, and it's pretty much a blessing to be here. There is a black who wrote that. Keith Rich, tonight's my night. I have too many names in my brain. Keith Richland, I think it is. But it's easy it's Out of America. And it's a major book. He's a Washington Post journalist. He wrote this many years ago. He was stationed in Africa as the East Africa bureau chief of the Washington Post. And then he wrote a book saying, listen, slavery was an evil and it was horrible. I mean, that's a given. Everybody knows that. But I have to say, I am lucky that my ancestors came here as slaves so that I could grow up in America and not Africa. Which is completely accurate. That's why, do you know that more Africans have come to the United States as immigrants than came on slave ships? Nobody knows that. It was reported in the New York Times in the 1980s. This is already true for 40 years. More Africans have come to America as legal immigrants, wanting to come here than came on those hell ships called slave ships. Why? Why would they want to come to a racist country? Are they stupid? I've been to 20 African countries. I love Africa. I know why they came. They came because they want a better life. That's why. And they do very well, by the way. African immigrants do spectacularly well in the United States. So a black who says, yes, I am really happy to be a black in America, will vote Republican. The more angry you are at whites, the more likely you are to be on the left and vote Democrat. They know that. You're a Hispanic? I mean, that's the most amazing. The caravan is coming to the United States, fleeing countries, and holding the flag of the country they're fleeing. As a guy I had on my show, John Zmirak, a Catholic writer, he put it, he said, it's like, did the Jews fleeing Nazi Germany carry a swastika flag? It's such a great point. It's all upside down, everybody. It's all upside down. They've even ruined happiness. So when you know that, it gives you the intellectual ammunition to fight. This organization is a fighting organization. You help it, you're the same as the fighter. God bless you and God bless it. Thank you very much. I know I took longer. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Please stay seated. Dennis, you inspired me. You inspired me. And folks, I want you to take out your tax returns right now. Now, what I would like you to do, though, before you leave here today, is to do what he says, to be a partner in the fight.
From who?
And in your brochure, you'll find an envelope.
Oh, good.
Just like
Okay.
this. This is the envelope. And if you could be so gracious before you leave, to fill that out with whatever's on your heart to do. I greatly appreciate that. It takes this.
This has been Timeless Wisdom with Dennis Prager. Visit DennisPrager.com for thousands of hours of Dennis's lectures, courses, and classic radio programs, and to purchase Dennis Prager's Rational Bibles.